But when you examine the obstacles and the triumphs in life, that
when Vanessa Williams took the stage on September 17, 1983, she made history. Crowned the first black winner of the Miss America 1984 pageant, Williams seemed poised to break barriers and embody a new chapter of representation. Yet only 10 months later, the spotlight took a devastating turn. Nude photographs of Williams, taken earlier and published without her consent, emerged, sparkling a national scandal and compelling her to relinquish her crown in July 1984. For decades, Williams lived with the public scrutiny, judgment, and shame that followed the incident. But as she reflects now, almost 40 years later, she's not just telling her story of fall from grace, she's also telling one of resilience, transformation, and vindication. The historic win. In 1983, the Miss America pageant was still seen by millions as a symbol of tradition and idealized Americana, overwhelmingly white, conservative, and rooted in outdated expectations of femininity. When 20-year-old Vanessa Lynn Williams from Millwood, New York, walked onto that stage as Miss New York, she didn't just compete, she radiated. A triple-threat performer trained at Syracuse University, Williams stunned audiences with her Broadway-caliber vocal performance, something far beyond the safe pageant-style talent most contestants delivered. When she was crowned Miss America 1984, she broke a barrier that had stood for 62 years. She was the first black woman ever to hold the title, an achievement that was celebrated by many but resented by others. What wasn't publicly visible at the time was the pressure and racism she faced behind the scenes. Williams later revealed she received hate mail, vile threats, and was constantly under a microscope in ways no previous title holder had been. Her mere presence as Miss America was political, whether she wanted it to be or not. She wasn't just wearing a crown, she was carrying history. The photos, a private moment turned into a national scandal. Before ever dreaming of Miss America, a teenage Vanessa Williams worked briefly as an assistant and model to help cover college costs. During that time, she agreed to pose for artistic nude photographs, never erotic, never intended for publication, and with the explicit understanding they would not be released or shown publicly. She was 19. Years later, at the height of her reign, without her knowledge, consent, or compensation, these photos were sold to Penthouse magazine. Williams only found out when a reporter contacted her for comment shortly before the issue hit newsstands in the summer of 1984. Within hours, the Miss America organization called an emergency press conference. She was given an ultimatum: resign voluntarily or be stripped of the crown publicly. Just 10 months after making history, she stood before cameras, emotional, composed, and forced to apologize for photos she never consented to publish. The scandal wasn't just national, it was moral hysteria. America wasn't talking about consent, exploitation, or ethics. They were talking about purity, about respectability, about how a black woman's body was not allowed to exist without white approval.
I was a junior, going into my junior year at Syracuse, and I was a musical theater major, and so won Miss America just because I needed the scholarship money. Had no idea I was going to win. I was supposed to come to London my junior year abroad and was ready to go in September, and of course my life changed and I became famous and had an amazing time as Miss America. I mean, invited the presidents, the White House, and performed all over the United States.
The fallout. The response was swift and merciless. Overnight, Vanessa Williams went from being America's sweetheart to a national scandal headline. The Penthouse issue, featuring the unauthorized images, hit stands in July 1984, and the Miss America organization, eager to protect its wholesome image, moved quickly to contain the damage. Just 10 months after her historic victory, Williams was forced to resign, becoming the first Miss America in history to relinquish the title. While Williams handled the press conference with grace, the humiliation was profound. Quote, "I felt betrayed, humiliated, and ashamed," she said later. "I didn't do anything illegal, but I became the center of a moral storm." The scandal dominated headlines across the country. Tabloids speculated endlessly about her motives, and editorial pages debated whether she was a victim or a hypocrite. Few asked the most important question: why were the private photos of a young woman being sold without her consent? The racial undercurrents were also unmistakable. Many critics later observed that Williams, as the first black Miss America, faced harsher judgment than any white predecessor might have. Her triumph had symbolized progress. Her fall became a spectacle that reinforced double standards about morality, race, and femininity. Even the organization's decision to publicly distance itself from her felt tinged with hypocrisy. The Miss America pageant had long profited from the ideal of beauty, yet it punished a woman whose private beauty was exploited without her approval. For Williams, the cost was immense, her reputation shattered, her career uncertain, and her dream reduced to scandalous headlines. Rebuilding from the ashes. But Vanessa Williams refused to let the scandal define her. In the aftermath of her resignation, she faced intense public scrutiny and professional rejection. Endorsement deals vanished overnight. Casting directors avoided her. She was, for a time, unemployable in the entertainment industry. But Williams turned to what she knew best, her talent. She returned to music, signing with Mercury Records, and began to rebuild her image from the ground up. In 1988, she released her debut album, The Right Stuff, which earned critical praise and 3 Grammy nominations. Her second album, The Comfort Zone, catapulted her to pop stardom in 1991 thanks to hits like Save the Best for Last. By the mid-90s, Williams had achieved what few thought possible, a full-fledged comeback. She conquered Broadway, Kiss of the Spider-Woman, Hollywood, Eraser, Soul Food, and television, Ugly Betty, Desperate Housewives. Her success was not just personal redemption, it was cultural vindication. Through it all, Williams remained remarkably candid about her past. She never denied the pain of the scandal, but spoke openly about the importance of owning her story. Quote, "I knew that I had to work twice as hard to prove that I was more than what they said I was," she told People magazine in 2024. And I did. Her journey from disgrace to acclaim became one of the most compelling comeback stories in American entertainment. A reminder that resilience can outlast even the most brutal public shaming.
My parents were lovely enough to, try to back me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to move on with my life. Forget this. And so I dropped the lawsuit and made my way through the business.
The long-awaited apology. For decades, Vanessa Williams never received so much as a formal acknowledgement from the Miss America organization. That changed in 2015, more than 30 years after her resignation, when she was invited back as the head judge for the Miss America pageant. In an unexpected on-air moment during the live broadcast, pageant executive chairman Sam Haskell issued a public apology on behalf of the organization. On behalf of today's organization, I want to apologize to you for anything that was said or done that made you feel any less than the Miss America you are. The moment drew applause and headlines, but reactions were mixed. Many praised the long overdue gesture. Others called it strategic, even hollow. The organization never mentioned the fact that the core issue was consent, that Williams had been punished not for something she did, but for something done to her. She accepted the apology with poise, but would later reveal the moment was more complicated than it looked. She appreciated the recognition, but the emotional cost of what she endured wasn't something a single televised statement could erase. Reclaiming the narrative. What makes Williams' story remarkable is not simply that she recovered, but how she took ownership of her story and refused to let others define it. Over the years, she became increasingly vocal about the ways her experience intersected with broader issues of exploitation, race, and female autonomy. She's repeatedly emphasized she did not give consent for those photographs to be published, a point often downplayed in the 1980s moral panic. In recent interviews, she's framed her story not as a scandal, but as an early and painful example of media violation and public shaming culture, foreshadowing the treatment of women like Monica Lewinsky, Janet Jackson, and Britney Spears. And the public has caught up. Today, Williams is not remembered as the fallen Miss America. She's widely regarded as a groundbreaking figure, an actress and singer with a multi-decade career, and a woman whose dignity, even in crisis, became her greatest statement. Now it's time to hear from you. What was the most surprising part of this story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.